The heck with my weakness. I'm going to get amazing at what I'm already good at.
What's up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I'm one of your hosts, Willie Blake. I have my other co-host, Mr. Ian Stermer, as well as our founder of Champion Circle, Mr. John Kovacs Jr. Today, we are jumping into the second part of an amazing book by Dean Graziosi, which is Bada Boom! Underdog Advantage. This is one of the first books that, actually, I think this is the only book I've read by Dean, and it is phenomenal because it goes into such a great mindset of how to be an underdog, goes into so many stories. Today, we're going to jump into the first one that he goes into, which is Underdogs. I'm going to remember it. Just wait for it. It's coming. Underdogs have nothing to lose. See, I knew it was going to come. Underdogs have nothing to lose because they really don't. But they have everything to gain. So I actually want to throw out a question for both of you to start this off with. Have you ever felt free because no one believed in you? And how did that unlock something inside of you? So how have you ever felt free because no one believed in you? And how did that unlock something inside of you? I can answer first, but do either of you two want to jump in with that? No?
I'm going to say go ahead.
Cool. While you're thinking about it, the one that comes to my mind of have I ever felt free because no one believed in me was back in the fourth grade. I know, so long ago. Back in the fourth grade, there was a music program that we did for all the parents. And so while we were doing rehearsals, it was those like stages they had in elementary school. And I was at the top. And as we were singing about Mesopotamia and learning in Egypt and the Nile and everything, after the song was done, the teacher asked, who here wants to rehearse one last time? At least that's what I thought the question was. I looked at the clock, and there was a minute before the bell rang for us to leave. Now, I know that, one, we still had to go back to class to get our stuff, and two, if we didn't get to the bus within 5 minutes, I'd have to call my parents to come and get me. And so I looked at her and said no. And at the exact same time, everyone else around me said yes. And the spotlight hit me. And I look around and the teacher looks at me with those little like squinty eyes and said, what did you say? And I said, no. And everyone else said yes. And I said, no. And then the teacher pointed at me and had me come down and sit next to her. And I don't know if you two remember the dunce caps that you read in history books back in the day, where you're dumb if you have those on. I felt like I had one of those on while they were singing the last song. And while I sat there, all I could think was like, I'm not going to raise my voice again. And in a weird way, I also, as I was sitting there, knew that I could mess up as much as I wanted and no one would care. And so from that, funny enough, I actually became a really good soccer player because my friends who played soccer in there were trying to be pristine and punctuous while on the soccer field. But I'm just like, no one expects me of anything. I'm this troubled kid who also had dyslexia, so I could do anything. So I'd practice for fun. I'd go out there and just have a blast and put everything into it. And from that, it unlocked something inside of me of I can just have fun. I can just go out on the soccer field and enjoy it, and nobody has any expectation. And from that, I was one of the best people on the soccer team. Everyone's like, "Oh, how do you do it? You must practice for hours." And I'm like, "I don't practice more than anyone else. I just stopped caring what other people thought because I knew they were already thinking bad of me, which, they probably won't. But with that mindset that I had, I'm like, they don't care about me, so I'll just do what I want." And I had a lot of fun and grew with it. So that's one of my curveball stories to that question. But for you two, do you have one of have you ever felt free because no one believed in you? And how did that unlock something inside of you?
I'd say that my life is an underdog story. Every time I took step onto the track or to anywhere in my life, I wasn't really the main event. I wasn't the main attraction. I wasn't the spotlight everyone was looking at. And with so many different track and field stories and championships and so forth, we surprised and shocked everybody. But one of my favorite things about being in that position is the mindset that it teaches you for the rest of your life. If you live a life where everyone is expecting you, is watching you to be 100% on, that's a lot of pressure. But the fact that when you have no pressure because you can show up and totally shock people, it's a great feeling. It's like trying to spearhead a project without the instructions. And I think you learn a lot more about something when you just try to make things work without trying to follow the manual. You ever bought a thing of Legos and the Legos say, you got to do it step by step and so forth. But when you, excuse me, I have an allergy problem today. When you follow it step by step, you're always looking for the right piece and you're always trying to make it right. But when you're not trying to be right and you're just trying to make it happen, it's a different mindset and you find yourself creating things. In my life, I for sure have many underdog stories where people didn't believe in me. I think the most important one was the day we stepped onto the indoor national championships as a relay team. And we were just this, little group of 4 guys from Colorado going up against some of the nation's biggest top dogs. And as we knew that no one was watching us, we knew that we could turn some heads. And it came down to the last sprint of the race, and I just gave it my all. Didn't know if I'd make it to the end or not, because sometimes if you push your body too hard, you pass out. And I pushed myself so hard across that finish line, and I just remember seeing our names up on the board, and we had swept the podium and came from nowhere, and we were second place in the nation in our 4x800 relay team, and I just remember thinking, like, out of all the teams that have rankings, we just messed that up. There's people that are going into their new senior seasons hoping for the best, and we just kind of swooped in there, and that is a great feeling, especially when no one believes in you. Because if you need validation, if you need that comfort, if you need that constant sense of reassurance that you're on the right track, then you might want to wander off and follow a different path or journey for a little while, because you'll see how free it can be.
Love that. And as I'm listening to these great stories, I'm thinking about just the simplicity in my life when I have nothing to lose. And in my younger years, I did some sales door to door, knocking on doors. And at first, that's a terrifying experience until you get into your head the fact that you'll never see these people again and they won't care about you. They either will benefit from you or they will never remember or care about you for the rest of their life. And that idea kind of hit me that so much in life, I have nothing to lose because there's no negative consequence. There's no downside to it. And that kind of hit me in a job interview a few years ago. I was applying for a sales position, and I'm a little bit quieter guy normally. And the person interviewing pointed that out. How are you going to do? I'd be an outgoing salesperson. And I said, yeah, I just adapted the situation. He says, oh, so you can chameleon. I never heard chameleon used as a verb, but it's a nice verb anyways. So I, of course, said, yes, that's what I do. He goes, okay. And he pointed over to somebody walking down the hall outside the office and said, go talk to him. So being terrified, I stood up, tried to look confident walking over there. But halfway walking there, I thought, if I get this job, this is great and it'll be a fun story. And if I don't get the job, I'll never see him again. So it's like I can't mess up. I have nothing to lose in this. There's no downside. My worst case is I will be exactly where I was yesterday. So I went over and did a mediocre job talking to the guy, and ended up getting the job. And his desk was next to me afterwards. And he never once mentioned that going forward. So I had nothing to lose. And it worked. Just that idea, it's freeing when you realize there's no real negative consequence except in your own mind. And that's not real. So it frees you up when you're in that situation.
It's true. And that's such a great mindset to go in with it, especially as we're talking about underdog and underdog mindset. If you have nothing to lose, why not do it? I know a lot of times when people talk about their career and ask advice and being like, when do I quit my 9 to 5? Or when do I start my side hustle? Or what do I do with all this time that I have? I don't usually hear that one because people usually use up the time they have. But when it comes to going forward with a dream or a goal or whatever it is of your purpose, the biggest thing to come back that a lot of people are just like, well, if I do it, I'm scared of the unknown. I'm scared of what other people think about me. And every time, Ian, you nailed it. Every time I go back and say, well, how is it going to be if you did it and then it just didn't work out? And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they say something either of, well, then I'll have to go and work back at Walmart, or I'll have to go back to working at Domino's or McDonald's, or maybe, and then the other 1 out of 10 throws out this like, oh, I'm going to die and nothing's ever going to work. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably exaggerating a bit, because it'll just go back to normal. It'll go back to exactly where it is. For someone who has worked at Walmart in produce, I remember when I was talking with my wife before leaving, as they were changing the schedules and doing things that, goodness gracious, do not recommend. This is for everyone listening, this is the opinion of me and not the opinion of what we stand at Champion Circle when it comes to Walmart. Just want to put that disclaimer out there for legal reasons. But as I was working in a produce section of a retailer, and I was talking with my wife, one of the biggest things is, well, what are you going to do if it doesn't work out? And I was talking about my coaching business. And she said that to me, and I said, well, then I'd go back to where I am right now. And she's like, okay, let's do it. And so because we could always default back to the life that we have, so why not try something new? Why not go after a dream that we haven't tried before? There's not really much stopping us besides our own limitations. So, Ian, you nailed it on the head. You're just going to go back to the life that you have. So why not try it anyways?
I remember tapping into this principle and using it a lot when I was in college. I never was a good test taker. And it's because of the pressure of having to learn, retain information, and then either have that memorization principle or the ability to just like regurgitate facts and information for the pressure of filling out the right bubble on a test. Never worked for me. I'm great on my feet. I can explain anything. I can communicate anything. But when you put a list of bubbles and questions and the transformation. It's not something you practice. It's not something you work on. Anyways, I always had a disadvantage when it came to test taking. No, I did not get any disability or any special attention for it, but I probably should have, now that I reflected. But I'm glad I didn't, because there's a powerful principle that I learned throughout my school years. I did fear failing my tests. It was inevitable. I did fear that the time and the information, and that my brain would not be able to recall on the time I spent in classes listening to and taking notes and thinking about the principles that our professors would share. But every time I would get overwhelmed or anxious about this idea, I would take a big deep breath and I'd remind myself, hey, if I fail this test, I'll still be alive. I'm not dead. No one's taking me to jail. No one's gonna kick me out of the class or the university. Yeah, I might have to go talk to my professor and see if there's anything I can do for extra. But I knew that, like, at the end of the day, no matter what the test results were, it wasn't a reflection of who I was. It just meant how much time I needed to spend more outside of test taking to work on it. And that realization, that ability to just, like, I don't know, maturely just take a big deep breath and say, okay, let's bear through this, oftentimes led to better results. I can't tell you that it led to better test results. I can tell you that I never failed. I never failed out of college. I never failed out of school. Yeah, I've had to take on some extra projects and some things to make sure I could stay afloat. But I will say, like, being able to do that was this idea of, like, I have nothing to lose and only to gain. If I think of the test as a wrong answer means I lose a point, then I'm always going to lose. But if I think of the test answer as, hey, here's an opportunity to get another point, then you see the world differently. Here's an opportunity to get another point, to get ahead, to get an advantage, to get some resources, to have an experience, to change people's lives. And that, to me, is truly what it means to have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. Your mindset shifts from a lack and into an abundance.
I love that. And as you're talking, it kind of made me think of something, especially in the underdog situation in the beginning. There's a big difference between who you are and what you do. And when you said that about the test, so the test didn't reflect who John Kovacs Jr. is. It reflected how good John Kovacs Jr. does in a certain circumstance. And that's a very different thing. So when we have nothing to lose, if we do bad at something, especially at that beginning phase, trying something new, it doesn't mean we are bad. It just means we did not succeed at this one particular incident that we were working on. It meant that we didn't succeed the first time we tried one thing. And there's a freedom in that. That's, I'm not the failure. It's just that this one didn't work for me. And separating those two is something we can do at the beginning. We can do as the underdog. If Michael Jordan misses a shot in basketball, people say that he messed up. It's a big deal. I had a chance to talk to a basketball player named Danny Ainge many years ago, back when he was playing. And he was asked the question, what do you think about playing against Michael Jordan? He said, I love it because nobody cares if I don't block his shot. Nobody even notices if I don't win against Michael Jordan. But if Michael Jordan misses it, now it stands out because Michael Jordan is basketball, or was basketball. Where Danny Ainge was just a player good enough to make it into the NBA, and he was definitely the underdog. So I love being able to separate. It's not me. Once I become so good and so famous at something, if Taylor Swift hits a wrong note in a concert, people talk about it. If I hit the right note when I sing, people are excited about it. Just that one note I can hit. So there's a freedom in that. because it's not us, it's the situation in this underdog advantage. And we can milk that for all it's worth. So it's just a great place to be.
Rudy Rudiger in the movie Rudy, you have Rocky, you have Nacho Libre. I know that should be added in there, but there's like the underdogs that overcome it. And the one that reminds me of, I'm naming different movies. The one, Here Comes the Boom. I think it's Kevin James. I think that's the actor, but he goes through his whole thing where working up, the school's coming down, he's trying to raise money for it, so he finally gets to the final stage with like the big honcho, big boss that he has, that he doesn't have to beat, because even if he loses, he'll make enough money for the school. And then that night he gets a call, spoilers for those people, he gets a call saying that the person who is holding all the money was I don't know the word for it, basically took all the money. And so they didn't have it. And so he's just like, well, I give up. And the trainer and coach is just like, well, there's no reason to do this. But then he had a thought of, what if I win? Because then instead of the 10K, I'll make 50K, which will cover everything that is needed for the school to happen, school to stay alive. So he gets onto the field, and can I tell you how powerful it is? If someone has the I've got nothing to lose mindset, how dangerous they are. Because if they have nothing to lose, but they have everything to win, they turn into monsters. They turn into beasts. They go out there and it's just like, I am going to give everything that I have, because if I lose, everybody expected it anyways. But if I win, everything is going to happen. The money as well as the recognition. And so he goes out and just and gets beat to a pulp, but at the end wins it for the school. So many stories are out there of the underdogs, of people who just go forward because they have nothing to lose but everything to gain. And they are dangerous. They're dangerous out there. I know for myself and some of the things I've done, there are moments to where I shut off this, I call it my emotions. Like I turn off my emotion switch and just get things done. Where I know I just don't really, not that I don't care about the other people in the way, but it's just like, I don't care if I lose or win. I'm just out there on a mission doing it. And when you have that mindset, man, the monsters, the beasts, the underdogs, that's where the stories come to play. As we wrap up this video, that was my final thought. John and Ian, I'd love to hear your final thoughts with all this.
Yeah, imagine a world where you didn't think too hard about the process and you didn't create the paralysis by analysis, but that you just acted and things happened for you. Imagine a world where you decided, you know what, I'm going to be an underdog and no one's looking at me, and I can show up and shock people. I can turn heads. It's so much more fun to be in this situation than to have the high pressure. Ian Stermer brought up Michael Jordan, and I literally just watched a video the other day of an interview of Michael saying, somebody asked about what, the life of being the greatest of all time. However, he named and numbered all of the stats to which the games he lost, the shots he took that didn't make, the times that he was trusted to take the final shot and did not win the game, and how many times he failed. And that statistic alone was shocking. Everyone had their eyes on Michael Jordan. And so Danny Ainge or any one of these other players, no one cares how many shots Danny Ainge missed. All they care is that he showed up and he put a beating on Michael Jordan on a few games. People care about that. No one cares how many shots you're missing. In fact, this might be a reality shocker for a lot of you listening, but let me just be honest. Nobody's watching. You might think there are, but all of our anxieties, especially the social anxieties that are surrounded by our expectations and our thoughts around what other people think about us, while there's some reality to it, the truth is no one's watching. Everyone is in their own world. Everyone is in their own simulation, their own atmosphere. One of my favorite quotes from Deepak Chopra is at the I'm going to lose it. At the core of the world, or no, what is it? I'm going to remember. Anyways, the quote essentially speaks into the idea that at the cellular level, or at the level of the soul, we are our own world. There it is. And what that means is people aren't waking up every single morning thinking, oh, I wonder what Willie or Ian are going to do today. I wonder what they're thinking about. And if they are, then those people are probably focused on the wrong things. They should be focused on themselves, as we are. And so as you focus on yourself, act fast, improve everything quickly. Les Brown used to say, if you get knocked down, learn to land on your back, because if you can look up, then you can get up. And so that's the important piece there. And I just love this idea. So you truly have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And if you think of it that way, life is a clean canvas, a clean slate, and everything you do is like adding points on a video game or leveling up in your life. And because of that, every single day should be an underdog advantage, and you can strike while the iron is hot.
Absolutely. No one knows the things we don't succeed at. No one cares the things we don't succeed at. I had a friend who was giving a talk at our church a while ago, and there was a teenager who was also supposed to give this talk at the church, and she was just terrified giving a talk. And he leaned over to her and said, are you nervous today? She goes, yeah. He goes, do you remember who talked last week? She said, no. He goes, no one's going to remember you next week either. Nothing to worry about. And funny, maybe a little cruel, but there's truth in that. Nobody ever remembers a problem, a little mistake, unless we're great at something. I don't remember. Well, I was at a graduation for my son a few weeks ago, and in front of a couple thousand people, one of the kids walked across the stage to get his diploma, and he tripped. Okay, I remember somebody tripped. I don't know who he was. I didn't look at his name. There's no way I would ever notice that again. And probably in a couple of weeks, if somebody said somebody tripped, I'd have to think back and figure out, oh yeah, I guess maybe that did happen. It's a nothing. It's a non-event, because the failure didn't matter. There's no consequence to it. There's no consequence if there's nothing to lose. And that means we can do anything we want to. We can try anything we want. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 or 10,000 times to make a light bulb. Pop quiz. Name one of his failures. What was one of the things that didn't work? What? Nobody knows? Yeah, we don't know what didn't work. It's a non-event. And that's what it is with our life. When we succeed, we will make great bounds and receive great rewards. When we fail, we will learn from it, and nobody will ever care that we failed at something. It's just, face it, we're not important enough to worry about failure. So we can only go up to succeed.
Well said. And with that ends this awesome episode as we went into, there we go, The Underdog Advantage by Dean Graziosi. I love this book and can't wait for next week, because without my friends and champions, that wraps up this awesome episode of Champion Reads. Continue to listen for next week, as well as previous episodes, as you find inspiration and find ways to be able to become an underdog yourself. And champions, If you are looking for more information on our podcast as well as our socials, go ahead and go to our website, mychampionscircle.com. You'll be able to find those and everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, continue to be awesome. Continue to be the champions in your lives. And always remember that if you have everything to lose, you have everything to win. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.